I'd like to call to order the June 22nd, 2021 public hearing for the City of Tampa's Barrio Latino Commission. Welcome, everyone. I'm Lee Win, the Vice Chair of the Commission. If you are here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order: site plan, elevations, architectural details, wall sections. Staff then presents the staff report. We will then ask for public comment. Following your presentation, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as the presentation. Please state and spell your name clearly. If you are here to speak for or against the project, your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take time now to summarize your comments, because 3 minutes goes by very quickly. Following public comment, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. The only comments which will be allowed after the public hearing is closed will be in response to any questions from the commissioners. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based on the city ordinance, chapter 27 of the city zoning code, the design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior Standards, design review comments, and the testimony given at the public hearing. The BLC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Owner agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and/or approvals. If you haven't done so, please silence cell phones. And I'll introduce the other commissioners, starting with my left.
Good morning, Liz Welch.
Rich Simmons.
Eric Schiller, good morning.
Jose Perez, good morning.
And with staff today, we have Ron Vila, Beverly Juzak, and with legal, we have Kamaria Pettis-Mackel. And then now I have a motion to approve the minutes from the last hearing.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, minutes pass.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Vila, I'm staff with Historic Preservation. Thank you for your attendance this morning. Under announcements, we have the administrative reviews that are in your packet. This shows what staff has done for the previous month in the May cycle. They're attached. If you have any comments, please contact the office. Moving down to conflicts of interest and ex parte communication, we have Kamaria Pettis-Mackel with a legal here to address the board.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. Will the Commissioners please state whether or not they have any conflicts of interest regarding any of the items that are listed on the agenda? For the record, seeing none. Additionally, will the Commissioners please state on the record whether or not they've had any ex parte communication regarding any of the items that are listed on the agenda? Again, for the record, hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamaria. Moving to continuations, we have one that is reflected on today's agenda, which is BLC 21-31. This is for the address of 1211 East 7th Avenue. This request was by the agent to continue to the July 27th, 2021 public hearing at 9 a.m. And if we could get a motion for that, please.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
At this time, we're ready for the swear-in. Ms. Juzak will swear anybody that wishes to testify, including staff. Please stand up and raise your right hand. So the first case this morning is BLC 21-123. This is for the address 2616 East 10th Avenue. Currently, there is a non-contributing structure that was relocated to this site as part of the interstate expansion. This was relocated from 26th Street, and that was in 2005. The request in front of you this morning is for site improvements for a vinyl fence and a paver driveway. And at this time, we'll go through the photo presentation. On your monitor, we have the Sanborn map from 1929. The area that we're going to be looking at this morning is highlighted in the green box. In 1929, there was a period building there. That building has been removed. Once again, you have 10th Avenue and 27th Street flanks the corner. There is an alley to the north of the property. You see that here, that the vacant land in 1929, the sprawl, you see the density to the west of the subject site was pretty heavy, and then it was coming this way. It hadn't reached there yet. Moving to our vicinity map, this is indicated in the green box over here, the property in question. The other green areas are city parks. And then we're looking here. So you can see that this is towards the eastern boundary of the district. This is an aerial from overhead. This is a curtain shot. Property in question is on the corner of 10th Avenue and 27th Street. This is the relocated structure from 2005. You see a portion of the fence that's already been erected as part of the request is for a vinyl fence. Moving to the western portion of the property, you see the fence as it continues in how it appears today. Section on the eastern portion of the property line, the portion of the fence is here, and then you see the condition of the existing fence. Just another closer shot of the existing fence. There is a gate here that part of the request is that he wants to put a gate here and put an apron here, so he has access to the rear of the property. Looking down the street, this is 10th Avenue, so you get a understanding of this environment. This is 10th looking to the west. This is back towards Ybor City. This is 10th Avenue looking across 27th to the east. This is looking north down 27th Street. This is the property in question and the current condition. You see there's some chain link in the district already, and then the condition of some of the neighboring fences. Turning around 27th. This is looking to the south. Property in question is over here. And you see a wood fence here, and you see some chain link in the background. And directly across the street to the south, this is the condition or the environment. So that concludes the photo presentation. This time, the property owner could address the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vila. Good morning. My name is Toriano Boynton. I'm the homeowner and my primary residence at 2616 East 10th Avenue. I'm here to seek approval from the BLC to remove my old wooden fence bordering my property and replace it with a white PVC fence. And you see that I've already started the work. Unbeknownst to me, I was just unaware that I required additional approval for this project. So I'm here now to try to get that approval and rectify that. I understand that the BLC rules do not specifically list PVC as an accepted material style for fences. However, it also does not, in my opinion, explicitly prohibit PVC fences as well. And Mr. Vila also mentioned that in the neighborhood there are different styles of fences, from wrought iron, wood, to chain link. The other reason why I'd like to install the PVC fence is I'd like to, sort of highlight just a couple reasons why. PVC is more durable than wood and more durable than wrought iron. It does not rust easily, and it's easy to clean and maintain. It's more affordable. My neighborhood is not an affluent part of town. In fact, the median home sells for about $219,000 in my neighborhood, as opposed to West Chase, which homes sell on average for $415,000. Many people cannot afford wrought iron fences, and the cost of replacing wooden fence every 5 to 10 years can get prohibitive. So because of the durability, the material is also recyclable. If I need to tear down any piece, I can recycle that, so it's sustainable. It's also aesthetically pleasing. The lines are clean and rigid. They look uniform and neat. And the color is basic white. So nothing stands out of the ordinary. And in fact, from a distance, you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a white wooden fence and a white PVC fence, at least the style that I'm trying to erect. It's also more secure. While crime in my neighborhood has been declining over the years, we still experience many cases of theft and burglary. And I'm a single father with a 10-year-old daughter. I have her 80% of the time. She's in camp right now. So security is a very important component of this request as well. Last thing, I'd like to note that the existing fence is in disrepair, and I mentioned that I've already started installing the fence. Is this a projector that I can share the survey? Here. So are you guys able to see this? Can you move it up? Yes. Maybe I can do this right here. Okay. So this is a survey that I submitted as part of my application, and it indicates in the red, I don't know how there you go. So in the red right here, this is where the existing fence is and where the new one's going to go right in this place. You can see it's well inside the property line. There's on both sides, the 110-foot side at the top, this is within the property line. There's another house right here. They do not have a fence, it's just my fence there. So that's also inside the property line. And then on the 27th Street side, the request is for it to also be inside the property line with the proper allowance for the easement. The fence is standard, 6 feet high. I understand you can't do anything, at least residential, higher in that neighborhood, and I'm okay with that. And then there's an existing gate, as Mr. Vila pointed out, that is about 110 pounds, and it has a couple wheels on the bottom, so moving it in and out is very difficult. I do have a small recreational vehicle in the back, and I'm trying to get access to that from this street right here. All right. So it's an existing opening, and I'm trying to enhance it with a better looking fence. And also, a part of my application is to put in a driveway apron right there. As of right now, it's just grass and dirt on the easement. And Mr. Vila, I came prepared with additional pictures of the neighbors' fences, but Mr. Vila actually did his homework and took all the pictures actually that I have. So I don't think there's anything else that I can kind of add to the existing, the view of the existing fence. I mean, you can see from this picture right here, and he had a similar picture, that it's pretty worn down. And so I'm really just trying to replace it, but also follow the rules and get the proper approvals. And I think that concludes my presentation. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for your presentation. Now we'll open up for public comment. Is there anyone here to speak? Oh, sorry. I think Ron Vila has to present first. Sorry, I jumped again there.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservations. Staff's finding that this application is inconsistent with the Ybor City design guidelines per the plans that we reviewed on June 4th. The design of the fence is similar to those referenced in the Ybor City design guidelines on page 76. However, vinyl is not a material that is considered compatible with the Ybor City Historic District. Moving forward on page 76 and 77, under fences and walls and the guidelines, it talks about using appropriate designs and materials when choosing a fence or wall for new construction to enhance the building. Painted picket fences, simple wrought iron fences, brick walls, stucco walls, and fences of brick pilasters combined with wrought iron are the traditional Ybor City flavor. Continuing down in the guidelines on page 77, in residential zones of historic district, the commission may consider approval for fences, materials other than those recommended in the guidelines. And there's two conditions where like fence materials are predominantly seen from the public right-of-way. And number two is where the requirement of the recommended fence material would place an undue economic hardship upon the applicant. And that is page 3 of your staff report. And then I believe additional information on the apron should be discussed. The applicant had put into the record that he was looking for pavers, and his staff's position that in the residential components of Ybor City, that concrete scored properly would be the material of choice. I'll be here to answer any questions.
Make a run. So now we will open up the case for public comments. Is anyone here to speak for or against the applicant's case? Seeing none, we will move on to commissioners asking questions, starting with my left, Liz here.
I don't know that I have any questions yet.
Okay,
You might have to come back to me.
no problem.
Okay. You can come on up, but I'm gonna ask a couple questions here. So, from the photos, there's part of you started to install the PV fence to a certain, to the back edge of the house, it looks like on the east side, correct? And then you stopped, or did that happen a couple of years ago, or did that just happen last month, or?
No, I started this project probably about 3.5 years ago. I just not had the money to do it all at once. I did it myself. And so I have the materials now to finish it, but I just haven't been able to do it all at one time. So it's been this has been a 2 or 3 year project.
Okay. So on the east side of the house, you probably did that front section coming off of the house, heading east, then heading north for another 10 feet to the back corner of the house. And that's all you did there. I'm looking at Ron's photo. On the west side, you did a PVC fence that went from the house west to the north. Does that meet the existing wood fence, or does that go all the way back to the setback line off your property? One on the west side.
Right. So the existing wooden fence at that part is actually already it's already taken out.
Okay.
But the existing wooden fence that's remaining, the vinyl fence meets it. It doesn't supersede it or come inside. It's pretty much on the same line, and I measured it to be inside my property line.
Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. It may be easier if commissioners, if you have the site plan back up on the screen and you can have the applicant show where the fence is already installed.
Okay. Thank you for that. The fence that's already installed would be here, coming off the house right here. North, south, east, or west, you guys are better than that. Better than me at that. This right here, section is done. This section is done. This section, about 8 feet, is done right here from the house coming out this way. Out of the 70 feet, 4.25 inches, I would say that about 60 feet of it is not done, and that includes the existing gate as well.
Okay, so it's basically just what we saw from that first photo.
Yes, sir.
Everything else is done except for where that gate is and where the proposed paver curb cut.
Yes, sir. Here's another picture that better illustrates the existing remaining structure right here. So you can see at the upper corner here, this part is done. It meets the old wooden fence, and then I'm asking to finish this right here, and it goes all the way to the edge of the house.
Okay, question. So this started 3.5 years ago. It's been that way, and you just kind of ran out of money to finish that last section and do that, replace that. It's pretty deteriorated, that wood fence section and the gate that goes there to access your backyard.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. And once again, I was just unaware that I needed this type of approval, and so I apologize for doing the work, but I just became aware of it by a notice that I needed approval, so that's why I'm here, obviously.
Okay, and it looks like from your documentation that I saw that you submitted to the city for the permit to do the fence, but it just didn't go into the Barrio either for review.
Right.
Would you like to talk about your curb cut, the apron there that you're proposing while you're at the mic?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put the survey back up. Oh, and by the way, this does provide an illustration kind of where that gate is right here, the heavy one that's hard to move. This is where I'd like to put the driveway. And at some point, I'll probably come back and ask to pave this part on the inside of the property if I need approval, but I'm asking for this case is to put the apron on the outside of the property, bordering North 27th Street. And so from the survey here, you can see in blue down here, there's an existing 10-foot gate on the old fence, and I'm asking to expand it to 12 feet, so I will have 2 6-foot gates that will open, and they will open to the should they open on the ends? How do I have it here? The swing, 2 6-foot swing gates, and you guys tell me if I need to have it open from the inside or the outside. I think to the outside, but you guys will let me know. And then install an apron there. The materials of the apron, I'm not committed to that. If the commission requires concrete, I'm happy to put in concrete. I'm not stuck to pavers. It just was a more economical way to do it. But if I need to save more to put concrete there to keep with the aesthetics of the neighborhood, I'm okay with that. I've also requested a right-of-way permit for this driveway. I think they're requiring of more details from me, such as a traffic site plan and other things. So that's in progress right now, that right-of-way permit to install that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my only question was about that permit, the right-of-way permit.
Yes, sir.
And that goes through transportation, I believe. Is that correct, Ron?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and that's underway?
Yes, it's in progress.
I have no other questions.
Just to elaborate on that, through our earlier discussions, I had transportation look at this. They will be involved if this request moves forward for additional drawings, and they will be involved, and right-of-way will be involved with a permit as this moves forward.
I have two questions. There's no curb cut there now, right? With a
No, there's no curve. It's an even
there's no
transition.
sidewalk either.
There's no sidewalk there. No, sir.
Okay. That's it.
I have one more question. I have one more question for staff. We've run into a situation like this in a previous meeting with the PVC fence. This area, this location for in the eastern part of the district, this has always been part of the local historic district. It hasn't recently been annexed or anything like that.
This was annexed in 2013. Our eastern boundary used to end at 22nd, and in 2013 we expanded the district to the east to encompass this area. And if you look at the vicinity map, Beverly, if you could go back to our map. Thank you. So here was our eastern boundary, which was 22nd. And then this was an expansion, and this was an expansion. We went to the south, and we went to the east at that time. So this is fairly new.
2013?
I think, I don't quote me on the date, but
Yeah. I thought it was fairly recent, but not in the last couple of years or anything. Sir, how long have you owned the property?
This will be 6.5 years. I bought the house
So
6.5
you're
years
probably right
ago.
around the same time.
Yeah, I imagine
think
so.
it got annexed. Okay, thank you.
No, he answered, Rich asked most of my questions.
All right. Fantastic, and I have no further questions as well. So you've sort of responded as the other commissioners asked their questions, but you have 5 minutes for rebuttal if there's anything else you'd like to add.
No, just thank you for hearing my case. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. So now we will close the public hearing, and then the commissioners will close the case. You again.
There's a part, we're talking quietly amongst ourselves, right? Is that what we're doing? So there's a part of me, to me, this is a no-brainer. We have allowed PVC to go in previously, because that wasn't the discussion around that's what's happening. It's a product that's being developed now. It wasn't developed at the time the guidelines were established. It looks nice, it looks sharp, it seems to be, he's permitted it, it's legal, that kind of thing. To me, this is a no-brainer. I would be inclined to do the cement versus the pavers on the cut. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it right now.
Yeah, it's, we've had this discussion in the last couple meetings. I kind of wish the design standards or design guidelines had been updated so we can take a look at that and see if it's a little bit more permissible. I'm with Liz on the apron. I think if the applicant seems agreeable to make that concrete, that would lead into a ribbon drive into his backyard. That's certainly more appropriate application here than the brick pavers. The PVC fence, we go back and forth. I think the previous case we talked about, that it was done, it was complete, they didn't know. I think this applicant didn't really know either, but at some point in time, it's just opening up a can of worms unless that gets updated with the new standards that are coming out. So it isn't an allowed material in the district at this point in time. That may change in the next couple months. I think there's some timing here that, you know, he's, I'd say 75% complete. It would create an undue financial hardship for him to go back and replace that. We didn't specifically ask him for costs, but I think we all kind of guess that, you know, he's been saving for 3.5 years to do this, to finish off that section. So it's not a, you know, easy to cover with a, you know, credit card payment or something. Yeah, it takes a while. So I think there's a little precedent set here that this does create an undue economic hardship. I'd also like to state that, you know, being that he's on one of the newer annexed of the sections of the local historic district gives us a little bit more flexibility. I don't think this stands yet in the main historic, you know, the National Landmark District. So I think there's some flexibility there. And we hear from one of his neighbors.
I have,
Commissioner Schiller, can you scoot up and turn
Yes.
your microphone on, please? Thank you.
yep, sure thing, thank you. I'm 100% with Liz, and I think you too, Rich, and there's not much to say. It just looks like, I know where this is going, and it's the right place for it to go. I'm done, thank you.
So I agree with all the fellow commissioners. I would say that the guidelines need to be revised at some point, and also the installers need to be trained. They need to know that they need to submit this for permit. This is like the second or third that we've looked at, that's the same issue. That's all.
Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. I don't have the right-of-way permit, but certainly in formatting your motion regarding the paper or the apron driveway, you may want to consider whether or not you want to put a condition about the right-of-way permit being approved with the city.
All right, great, thank you, we will. And as all the commissioners have stated, I tend to agree as well. The standards will be updated towards the end of this year, and so hopefully within those we can talk also about new updated materials for fencing. Obviously PVC lasts longer than wood, it's more affordable than wood, and I believe in the meantime as sort of a stopgap we can use our sort of exception for undue economic hardship for the applicant in terms of approving, potentially approving this fence. And with that, I think we can make a motion. Oh yes, and I agree, of course, with the concrete apron as well. That the applicant can, after the right-of-way permit and working with staff, to get that into the scope of work as well. And with that, do we have a motion?
Just to clarify procedurally, Kamaria, do you need the applicant to state that he is agreeable?
Oh, yes, yeah.
We probably need to reopen that.
Could the applicant come forward?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
What I'm supposed to do. No, there is a feedback on the microphone.
And I mean,
Sorry.
he'll have to agree to it after the motion is made, so.
Yeah, we're gonna make the motion that the concrete apron is gonna, that the apron is gonna be concrete and that you'll need to coordinate with the city of Tampa on the right-of-way permit. We just wanna make sure that that is acceptable to change the material to concrete in lieu of the pavers. You said before that you are amenable to that, but we just need you to verify that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Unfortunately, I can't make a motion.
I have a question before we make our motion. I'm in support of the motion. Do we need to specify whether we want the gate to go in or out? Does that matter to us? I don't know that I wouldn't say does that matter to us, but I don't know that we have input. I'm more inclined about the cement.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, so that can be his choice, how he wants to set it up.
Maria Pettis-Malcolm from the City Attorney's Office. You can always refer that to staff for staff to direct how the gate should operate.
Okay, only because when he presented, he brought it up, and I thought, ooh, I don't know if we I don't know if we have any guidelines around that that I'm just not aware of.
No, I think the operating hardware would be on the back side of the gate on the inside for him anyways, so if it opens out onto the apron or opens in.
It's his choice.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, it's an easement, right? So it might depend on transportation or city or code or some
They
sort.
may
that
tell
we
him,
might
they
not
may
know.
give him
Yes,
some
I'm not really
feedback.
sure.
Okay, Kamario's right, we'll leave it to staff.
Yeah, right.
Me. Why is it always me?
Because you're good at it.
All right.
And I can't do it. Right?
Move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in BLC 21-34 for the property located at 2616 East 10th Avenue with the following conditions. That the applicant change the material of the apron driveway to concrete, and that's to be coordinated with City of Tampa Department of Transportation for as part of the right-of-way permit. And because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Ybor City Design Guides of the City of Tampa for the following reasons, per Chapter 27 of the City of Tampa Code, design reviews reference, and the Secretary of Standards, that the recommended fencing material would place an undue economic hardship on the applicant, and that is the reason for the motion.
And just to clarify, it's BLC 21123. I believe you stated 124.
21, 1, 2. Oh,
Yeah, it says
Yeah,
21-123.
Yes.
Okay, it says both on the sheet.
yeah, there's different
Can I
numbers.
make an amendment to that? I'd like to add the word scored concrete to
Yep.
do that.
That is acceptable to the motion.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Yeah. I think the applicant already said he stated he understood all the conditions, so we have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservation. Moving to the next case, which is BLC 21-146/TA/CAP 2105. This is for a comp plan amendment. The address is 1402 15th Street. There is a contributing structure within the subject sites that are being reviewed this morning. It's a 1915 contributing structure. The current zoning at that location is YC6. The recommendation is for a plan amendment from a light industrial to a CMU 35. As you review this application, on page 3 of your staff report is what you're charged to review it with, your duties and powers. It states with regards to the application for rezoning, changes to land use classifications or comprehensive plan amendments, to review and recommend reasonable land use changes to the extent necessary to preserve the historic integrity and appearance within the local historic district. Moving to the photo presentation. I always like to start with the 1929 Sanborn. You see the density here. This is part of our boundaries. Shows that this is inside the local district of Ybor City. This is outside. The property in question is this small parcel here. To kind of get a better understanding, a more global look, is once again, this is the red indicates the local boundaries. This is the one questionable property that we're looking at that is within the district. This is the request this morning. You see there's different parcels in the magenta highlighted area. You have one that's a little farther from the district. Once again, this is the boundaries. This is the small contributing structure that is within the local district. And then you have a couple that abut the district. Just a couple shots of the contributing structure that's there now. Looking at the surrounding areas, this is to the north of that contributing structure. A couple of structures to the south. so you get a feel for the environment. This is looking to the east. So this is the dividing line. Everything to the west of 15th Street is outside the district. This is to the east. This is inside the district. So you see some outdoor storage and a Butler building. You have some contributing structures that are within the district. This is some street shots. This is looking down 3rd Avenue to the west. Subject site is over here. This is looking to the east across 15th Street. Once again, just to get a feel for the area. And this is looking down 15th Street to the north. These are the contributing structures that I showed earlier. This is looking back into 7th Avenue and turning around in the other direction. This is looking down 15th Street towards Admiral. Property in question is here. The dividing line, what's in the district, is here. This is outside the district and is part of what the applicant's going to show. And just to revisit, this is the contributing structure that's in. These were the grouping of the 2 little cottages that were in the district. This was the dividing line down 15th Street. This is in the district. This is out of the district. But staff has some concerns since these abut the district line, that sensitivity is required. At this time, Tyler Hudson is the agent for the owner, is going to go through the presentation, and then I'll be back to have some comments. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Tyler Hudson. My address is 400 North Ashley Drive, and I'm here on behalf of the property owners that own the assemblages that are shown in Ron's presentation. If you could cue up my PowerPoint. There it is. Thank you. So with me here this morning is Graham Tyrell. Graham's the Senior Vice President for Development at Kettler, which is a DC-based developer. Graham actually moved here last year, and Kettler, in conjunction with Daryl Shaw, are working on a large-scale master plan for an area that'll eventually encompass about 50 acres of really the southwestern portion of Ybor City. That project is going to be entitled and developed in phases. This is the first of what will probably be well over a dozen hearings that we're going to have before you, both for recommendations as to comprehensive plan changes, recommendations on rezonings, and also what will be probably several certificates of appropriateness for the design elements of buildings that are constructed within the district itself. One of the opportunities of this project that is sometimes disguised as a challenge is the fact that the historic district boundary does divide the scope of this project, and not necessarily in a very even, clean way all the time. We're here today to really talk about one comprehensive plan change for a single lot that's 4,400 square feet that is in the historic district. But that same application that's going to go before City Council on Thursday also includes 3 other parcels that Ron showed that are outside the historic district. But in the interest of transparency, it's, I think, important for you all to understand what those requests are and what they're leading to eventually in terms of redevelopment, so you all can make a fully informed recommendation on the portion of the property that is in the historic district. So with that, at different points in this presentation, and when Graham speaks a little bit later on, you might hear us refer to the project, Ybor South, the master plan. And I want to show just very briefly what those general boundaries are. And again, and we've worked, want to thank Kamaria and Ron for all their help. We want to be very careful about keeping this presentation, today's hearing, very limited. But there are going to be many more hearings to come on this project. But so that everyone has an orientation about where we are talking about, this is the general scope of the project. The portions that are west of Nucio, we generally refer to as the West Blocks. That's the site of the former Tampa Park Apartments. Those are subject to a filed rezoning that you will have a recommendation hearing for sometime later this year. In the center, you'll see the Gasworks parcel. And then to the east, you'll see what we sometimes refer to the eastern parcels or the gateway parcels. In all of the map amendments that we're talking about today, save for the one at the very south that's wedged between the expressway lanes, we're talking about the eastern blocks today. Specifically, we're talking about the green outlined parcels. You can see the red is the historic district boundary, green are the parcels we're going to chat about. just for organization, I'm just talk about these as entirely separate. Number one is what is within the historic district. 2, 3, and 4 are varying degrees of outside, but I want to go parcel by parcel so that this commission can understand what you can do now on this property under the comprehensive plan and what you could do if these changes are ultimately approved. Okay, let's start with number one. This is the project that's in the historic district. It's a 4,400 square foot parcel. It does have a contributing structure on it. I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. As you can see, this block is divided between predominantly CMU 35 to the east. That is what we are seeking to go into mixed use. On the western side of the block, the part that's red on top, gray on the bottom, that entire folio is a TECO substation. That is candidly a bit too, doesn't quite need all the land that it has, but that CC 35 is the red portion. Danny with the Planning Commission can speak to this, but CMU 35, which is that light purple color, and CC 35, which is red, are very, very similar plan categories. And so what we're trying to do here is go from light industrial to what we believe is the most appropriate mixed use category by bringing what currently exists to the west eastward over up to the historic district boundary. Let's talk about the actual effect of that. So right now, being a light industrial land use classification, residential use is prohibited. So you could not build a house here. You couldn't put a townhome here. People cannot live here because of this light industrial classification. We think that is inappropriate, regardless of whether we had a project planned or not. This portion of Ybor, certainly more people want to live in Ybor City. We're having conversations citywide about where folks perhaps want to inhibit growth. This is an area of the city that is appropriate for growth, both based on reality and as well as the comprehensive plan. So the effect of this would be that you could build up to 3 units based on residential density. You could also build up to 8,800 square feet of residential as well. CMU 35 for now allows you to build based on an FAR standard or based on dwelling units per acre. But perhaps most importantly, you're making this parcel a potential home for someone because light industrial right now we believe is inappropriate for this specific parcel. Before we talk about the other parcels, I want to have a brief interlude about the comprehensive plan. There's 2 features of the comprehensive plan that I think are really bear on this discussion. The first is tucked away on page 81, and it's a reference to what's called South Ybor City. And it speaks to an area that's generally south of 3rd Avenue, generally in the Ybor City urban village. The parcels we're talking about today are south of 3rd Avenue, but they're not quite in the urban village. They're a little bit west of it. But again, I'm leaning a lot into that word generally in the comprehensive plan. But you'll note that it mentions increased interest in residential development and really the proximity to downtown, which is a good segue into the second point I want to make about the comprehensive plan, which is that all of these parcels that we're talking about today are within the CBD periphery. Now, in the comprehensive plan, the CBD periphery is a very briefly described but a very powerful provision that allows you to double the intensity or the density of a project that's residential or mixed use. The idea being that while you're not quite in the CBD, which has essentially unlimited density and density entitlements, only subject to the FAA, the periphery area should be an area where you're promoting more people to live, to work, and to build more, to develop more. So I think that's really important as we're talking about transitioning from industrial to mixed use, that there's a lot of comprehensive plan provisions that I think already support this change that we're requesting. So let's talk a little bit about the other parcels. The next parcel is one down. You're looking at the northwest corner of 2nd Avenue and 15th Street. Again, you have a situation where the western portion of this block is CMU 35. That is exactly what we are requesting to stretch eastward over to the historic district boundary. In terms of the effect of this particular one, similar. You're going from a situation where residential is prohibited to one where residential is allowed. You're certainly allowing for more density and intensity. About 14 units can be developed standalone, up to 39,000 square feet. And again, one thing I want to make a comment about here that applies to all the parcels, there might be some concern that, well, what if we want office? What if we want light manufacturing? What if we want some type of flex space? CMU 35 or RMU 100, which we're proposing for the further parcels, those uses are still permitted. So what we're really talking about here is getting rid of, I think, the type of industrial uses that candidly zoning was really invented in the early 1900s to separate from residential. Next, let's talk about what we're calling kind of Parcel 3. This fronts Adamo Drive. This is the northwest intersection of Adamo and 15th Street. Here we're proposing RMU 100. which is outside of the central business district, the most dense, most intense land use category. You'll note that to the west, you do have a proliferation of, not proliferation, you have RMU 100 to the west. I do want to show briefly on the Elmo. It's on, okay, thanks, Kamaria. The parcel that's hatched in black, that's what we are proposing, that's what it would look like if approved. And the reason why we think RMU 100 is appropriate here is because there is a continuation of RMU 100 to the south.
Can you point to it on the?
Yeah, sorry.
You just use your finger.
Yeah. Right there. And that's the southerly continuation that we talked about. It looks like an enormous gulf between those parcels, and the reason for that is because Adamo Drive is an absurdly wide right-of-way, but in reality, you do have an adjacency of RMU 100 to the historic district there, and we believe that it's appropriate for this Adamo-facing parcel. Let's talk a little bit about the effect of, I'm sorry, how do I go back? I'm sorry. I'm worthless.
Well, actually, yeah, there it is.
Oh, there you go, cool, thank you. So the effect of this is obviously pretty significant. As you can see, you can go up to a 7.0 FAR, and that's based on the 3.5 FAR that you get in RMU 100, but potentially doubled for a residential or mixed-use project because you're, again, in that CBD periphery area. The uses and characteristics, it's the same transition. Again, this is a property where only industrial uses are allowed, and you're transitioning to a situation that promotes and really requires the type of mixed-use development that I think candidly kind of characterized Ybor City prior to the proliferation of the industrial uses on this southern portion. Do you have a question, Commissioner Simmons? Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. And finally, we have a parcel. This is the most distant from the historic district. This is kind of a little bit of a strange parcel that's tucked between lanes of the expressway. If you go up 12th Street through the Channel District and you come to a dead end, there's a large warehouse on the left. This is that parcel. It's been in the news a little bit. It's going to be the new site of Fort Greenfields. But this is a parcel that is within our assemblage as well. This is heavy industrial. So from an intensity standpoint, it still allows a 1.5 FAR, but it allows an even broader array of industrial uses, including those that are not enclosed. So we believe this is a good idea. Similarly, you'll see this parcel is surrounded by, if you look at the, do I press PC or dot cam?
Just alert, there you go.
Thank you. You will see that that parcel is also really surrounded by RMU 100, and we think that's an appropriate one there. This is in a little bit of a no man's land of different CRA boundaries and things like that. But again, while this is outside of the scope, I think, of your perhaps eventual motion today, I want to make you aware that this is a part of the application that we have before you.
And then you can go back to the PowerPoint.
I want to make two comments just to supplement the record, and this is sort of at Ron's request, and we're happy to do so. We are aware that there is a contributing structure on the parcel that is within the historic district. We do not yet know what we are going to do with that. It is unlikely that structure is going to remain, but we are committed at this point to finding, not this point, we are committed now to finding a relocation option. I can't guarantee that that's going to be possible, but the owner of this property does own a fairly significant number of properties within the district, and we've talked about this, and we'll probably be back before you at some point to request a certificate of appropriateness for a relocation. But I just want to put in the record that we are aware that there is a contributing structure on site. The second point I want to make is that we are very mindful of the height restrictions in this YC6 district. Right, it's 60 feet, and as Graham is going to talk about in a little bit, we already have some preliminary massing ideas for what will eventually go on this parcel. We will propose a rezoning eventually to a PDA / YC9, but Graham will talk about this later, but we are very mindful of the historic district zoning guidelines, and we're certainly mindful about how the design guidelines can shape the future development that we're going to be proposing. Okay, so I'm going to stop for a second for a quick legal interlude. I'm about to ask Graham to come up and speak a little bit, and Kamari and I have spoken about this. What you're about to hear from Graham, I don't think it really have any bearing on your recommendation. He's going to talk a bit about why we need these mixed-use amendments to go through for the mixed-use master development we're creating. He's going to show a massing diagram that is extremely preliminary and has not been filed with the City of Tampa or the Planning Commission. And Kamari, if you want to add anything,
Kamari Pettis-Mackel for the record from the City Attorney's Office. So, Commissioners, what you're about to see, and I don't know the extent of it, but everything that you're about to see cannot be used in order to guide your thought process of whether or not you're going to recommend approval for this change that they're asking for. I'm sorry? Okay, so I just want to finish putting on the record that you have to consider the different intensity and density requests that they're asking for. You have to consider that information that's already been presented on the change from the light industrial to the CMU, whatever they're asking for. That's what right now you have to consider whether or not you're going to recommend or not recommend to City Council based on the presentation.
certainly defer to the commissioners on whether you are interested in seeing anything. The goal is simply to provide some context about where we're headed eventually, but as I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to be here a lot for a variety of different zoning, comprehensive plan, and certificate of appropriateness applications, and if you prefer to hear those details at that point, that's certainly fine with us.
Am I allowed to ask a question of staff? Okay, would it be and I don't know, maybe everybody else is in the boat and I'm floundering. Would it be appropriate for some level of presentation to us of the overall picture so that as these pieces come through the BLC, we at least understand and we don't have to go through what he's about to present to us? We don't have to go through that every time.
So, Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. Commissioner Wells, I understand your question is, can you see the overall project to wrap your head around it? Is that what you're asking?
I am, and I'm not talking about doing it today. Is there something, yes, that's the thing. Can we see what, and a high level, doesn't have to be a lot of detail, but a high level of here's what you're proposing overall, because as you keep indicating several times in your presentation, it's going to come to us. It's going to keep coming to us. And if we're only doing piece by piece, I don't think that's fair to us. Well, as we don't have a whole picture of, okay, here's what we're trying to get to as a whole and as a group.
I understand your question. And again, Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. Tyler will not be, he right now can't give you the whole presentation of what this project is because as he previously stated that it's in the preliminary phase. What's important now is to focus on the changes to the comp plan that they're asking for in order to drive where this project is going to go. And again, this is just a recommendation to City Council. Certainly, this is going to come back to address the phases of the project. I understand what you're asking, Commissioner Welch, but right now, this is important to address first. This recommendation to City Council, it is a legislative recommendation to City Council to address simply the change in the comp plan, and that's all that's before you today. That's all that can be addressed. So you want me to, and I'm just clarifying, you want me to address a change in a comp plan of which I don't understand what the full comp plan is. Mr. Hudson,
am I missing the boat?
Just to clarify, Mr. Hudson just presented to you what it's currently proposed, the use,
right, the
light industrial, and what he's asking for the change. That's what's before you today. Whether or not you would recommend to City Council the changes to the comp plan that he's asking for. Okay, so and just to clarify for me, so we're talking about these three parcels, and I understand that piece of it. So I didn't mean to indicate that I didn't. But those three parcels are obviously a piece of a larger picture. So I'm going to approve these three today or disapprove them
but I have no understanding or comprehension of how my decision today is gonna impact this tomorrow.
But that's for Mr. Hudson to explain that if you have additional.
Each time he comes?
This is only, the first phase is
Gotcha.
only about the change to the comp plan. That's what we're here for today. Coming down the future, whatever Mr. Hudson wants to do with the project and his client wants to do with the project, that's for his burden to prove to this board what he's trying to do with the project. That's his burden to prove the certificate of appropriateness requirements, the rezoning, that's his burden to prove that. But today, we're only focused on the comp plan changes and whether or not you recommend, it's a recommendation to city council. And I apologize if I,
No, that's fine.
Excuse me,
No,
Liz, one of us is confused, and it's probably me. I thought there was,
Okay,
you,
I'll buy that.
you mentioned 3 parcels that we're gonna be talking about today, and I think we're only talking about 1.
We're talking about the one little house, the blue house, right?
That's it.
But
No.
yet, we talked through the other 3, but they're not in the plan, you're right, they're not in the plan today, but in the presentation, okay. I'm
Okay,
with
so
you. So, yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
doesn't matter who's confused, but the point is that I think we're seeing too much already, as you can see, and we don't need to see any more. Unless we have a separate meeting someplace where they wanna show you the whole vision.
And that's what I'm trying to
And that's what Liz is
understand,
talking
that's what
about.
I'm trying to get to, sorry, Rich.
And we'll get there. You know, I think there's a number of steps that they have to go through.
Right,
Okay, let's think of this as a master plan for the whole area, and there's certain things that they need to take care of from a legal standpoint, changing the future land use, the comp plan, to let them move forward with this project. You know, they're showing us a little bit more than we know right now, because I'd like clarification that, is this motion gonna be on the 4 parcels that they are showing us that are gonna change, or it's really just the 1
right.
parcel for that? But I think our recommendation is only on that 1 parcel, but when it goes to city council, that recommendation would be on those 4 parcels.
I see this as
Because
a,
that's not in our purview. That's outside the district.
that's true.
and
Those are the 3
But,
Kamaria
but I see this
Pettis-Mackle-
as a trial balloon, so the appellant understands what and who he's dealing with.
Kamaria,
I don't know that I'm sorry, Kamaria,
it's okay.
I don't know that I agree with that, and maybe this is where I need to fully understand. You made a comment that it is his responsibility, it's his burden of proof. Okay, I guess I'm trying to understand. I, Liz Welch, would like to see the entire picture at a 50,000 foot level. Okay, give me a 50,000 foot view of what this thing is gonna look like.
But, and I understand.
Because as you're coming to me, you want me as the BLC and us as the BLC to make decisions based on this, but I wanna understand it. So that, to Rich's point, I don't have to get all of this stuff each time. I can say, okay, here's my 50,000 view, today we're doing this.
They're not,
Because
they're
I'm
not
gonna
there
make
yet.
it, huh?
They're not there yet.
We're
fully.
only focusing, again, I
hear you.
we're only focused on the change in the comp plan, recommendation to city council. You will, and this is for Mr. Hudson to bring this back to this board to explain further the scope of this project. But this phase right now is just to recommend or not recommend to city council regarding the change in the comp plan. That's, I understand, we're just not at that phase that you're asking for the additional information, because if he's prepared to show you that additional information, but this commission can't take that overall view into mind when they're making this recommendation to city council. You can't look at the
They're
pretty
offering-
picture.
They're offering to show us more of how this change plays into the plans for those 4 parcels, and maybe there's more that, I'm sorry, from
Tyler.
the gentleman from Kettler is gonna show us, some more of what that plan is. I don't think the whole thing, but at least more portion of how this affects this particular motion. But they need to shuffle the deck a little bit with the comp plan to be able to perform what they want to do and get rid of that light industrial zoning, which prohibits residential. They can't put any residential on, and this is primarily that parcel they're designating as a residential parcel. There may be some mixed use on it, they're entitled to that, but right now they can't do any of that
Anything until they change
the comp
that.
plan.
Right,
And we're just making a recommendation.
That's right.
This isn't our motion to,
Rezone the
that's
property or
city
anything.
council. The purview for that is city council. We're making a recommendation because it's within the historic district, we make a recommendation to city council on whether to move forward.
And the pretty picture does not have any bearing on what your recommendation is.
Is my logic, is what I'm asking making
They're offering-
sense to us as the BLC? Are we, I guess at some point in time, and I know he's trying to offer us information and we keep saying, no, wait, we don't think we want it. So I understand that, but at some point in time, would it not behoove us as the BLC to understand, especially since understand once they settle it in? Am I making sense in what I'm
There's gonna be a
initially
lot.
asking?
You're
There's gonna
making,
be a lot more.
you're
There's gonna
making,
be a lot. That's
Right.
why I'm like,
You,
okay, wait a
and
minute.
Commissioner Welch, and I apologize for interrupting. You will get that information at a different stage.
Perfect. Don't
Liz.
ever apologize for interrupting me, because I'll interrupt you. I'm sure it'll go back and forth for many times.
I'm quite sure there's been a lot of meetings on their side up until
Oh,
up until the time they want to proceed here. And they're going to do what is good for their project. And I think
Or necessary.
that's true.
Necessary,
And they're going to
yeah.
do it in a way that some of us are going to feel manipulated.
Well, I'm not gonna go down that road with you, here
And you
or
shouldn't,
now.
and you shouldn't.
Right.
I'm a little-
I do have an opinion on it, but I won't share it here. But I think we need to be open to what's being presented that's gonna be in the best interest of the city and in the best interest of the historic, which I think we always do. I think we're pretty good about that as a board. So, okay, I appreciate having this conversation with me today. Thank you.
If I could make just two quick comments. The first is that there is certainly no manipulation happening here. I can assure you this is not a trial balloon. The property owner, developer, myself, legions of architects and civil engineers have spent the last 18 months working on the various filings that are going to need to be made. We have filed PD application number REZ 2195 for 8 acres of Tampa Park Apartments. That has been filed. This is not speculative at all, and we look forward to working with you all for years to come over this process and this development, which is going to have dozens and dozens of governmental requirements. The second thing I'd just like to comment on, and I apologize if this was too much detail. As you can, this picture sort of says it all. This is a large development, and the line that does divide the historic district from the non-historic portion, it's a series of straight lines, but it isn't necessarily even. And it is our intent with this development that you don't look at any building and you see, oh, that's clearly where the historic district stops. We are not playing hide and seek with this. We are going to be here for the PD, which includes portions that are not in the district. We're going to be here for the PDA, which includes significant portions that are not in the district. And really the only item before you today is whether this green box that I'm going to point at is one where people should be allowed to live. Because right now they can't, because it's only for industrial use. And we're going to show you in the future why we think people are going to want to live there and why we have the opportunity to build out an exciting portion on the southern edge of Ybor between Ybor and downtown. But the only question before you today is it appropriate that you cannot live in that green box and that only industrial uses are permitted? That's the sole question before you today. There's going to be many, 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 many questions before you, I promise, in the months and years to come. But for today, it's that simple. Thank you.
Does that conclude?
Yeah, I think in light of, I think in light of the comments.
He's got nothing after that.
Yeah, I think in light of the comments, yeah, that's Graham. You'll see him more often. Yeah, I think in light of that, let's just keep the record intact as it is. I do not want to sow more confusion that perhaps exists already, so.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thank you
you.
for your presentation.
It's already on the document. I mean, no, you want the PC?
Yes, please. Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Vila. With all that information that you have to digest, we're going to get into the staff report at this time. Your duties and powers, once again, are Chapter 27, 95, with regards to this application for rezoning, changes to land use classifications or comprehensive plan amendment, to review and recommend reasonable land use changes to the extent necessary to preserve the historic integrity and appearance of the local historic district. Having said that, staff feel that this application is inconsistent with the objectives delineated in the City of Ordinances, Chapter 2795A 2H. And this is the property that we're speaking about is here. This is the one that we're going to focus on this morning. Having said that, in the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, Imagine 2040 plan, it also has some language in there that protects the historic district along the periphery. So once again, this was the line of the historic district. So you have, this is the one that you're going to focus on this morning. This is, they're asking for a light industrial to a CMU 35. The CMU 35 is a compatible change to the abutting property here. Along with the second box, that is the magenta here, this is also a CMU 35 is what they're asking for. So this is a compatible change as well. Although it's not part of the request, it does abut the historic district boundaries, so it should be taken into consideration in staff's opinion. And then lastly, as you move down to the south, which flanks Adamo and 15th, you have the RMU 100, which is the most intensive land use classification that is abutting the crosstown, and it has some language here that kind of ties into it. But also along that, it also has a UMU 60 to the east. So UMU 60 is the classification that is within the district, and staff would like to see that this UMU 60 transfers to the west, and that this area here becomes a UMU 60 that is somewhere between the CMU 35 and the RMU 100 that they're asking for today. So that's what we're looking for here. Stating that the language in the Imagine 2040 Comprehensive Plan, there's some language on page 106, policy 19.1.1 states to protect the character of the historic districts by adopting land development regulations within the designated boundaries, which would be here within the boundaries, and along the periphery of the districts to ensure that the development does not adversely affect the integrity of the historic resources. And that's here along the periphery. So that's where we're taking our position. So today they're asking for our RMU 100 here, and we believe that the UMU 60 is a compromise because it does cross the boundaries of the historic district. Along those lines, and looking at the conditions that are on page 3 of your staff report, there were some concerns about the contributing structure. We wanted the applicant to touch base with that, and that will be a discussion at a later public hearing. We also wanted the applicant to touch upon the height within the district. So currently, YC6 has a height capped at 60 foot in height, which he went on record to say that that's something that they'd be willing to investigate as they move forward. As you kind of put together your motion and your language, be very concise and direct with your recommendation to council. You'll probably have to work on that a little bit. And then also, we have Danny Collins with the Planning Commission here. I believe he should walk up to the podium and address the board at this time. Thank you.
Is the projector working? Good morning. This is Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I was sworn in earlier. Today we'll be presenting Tampa Comprehensive Plan Amendment, TACPA 2105. This amendment consists of 6 folio numbers. The northernmost folio is within the local historic district. That will be the parcel that you will be reviewing today, and it is the northernmost parcel on the on the map. The request is to change approximately 0.1 acres from the light industrial to the CMU 35 designation. Currently under the light industrial category, the site can be considered for just over 6,000 square feet of non-residential development. Residential cannot be considered within that light industrial category. The proposed amendment would allow for consideration up to 3 dwelling units, or just over 8,800 square feet of non-residential development. The request would remove any potential of industrial uses on the site. The Planning Commission reviewed the request and recommended that the amendment be found consistent to City Council. The item will proceed to City Council on Thursday, June 24th. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Mr. Vila, Kamari Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. Do you know where some examples of the RMU 100 are right now?
Tyler, can you put that map up that indicates that Tyler has a map that is shaded?
I think I have one.
You want to use this one? It's from your report.
Yeah, use that one.
So the Planning Commission likes purple. So.
Tyler, can you indicate the more intense use of the
Sure.
RMU 100?
Sure. Tyler Hudson, 400 North Ashley Drive. The darkest purple red, I guess is how that presents there, at the northwest corner of Adam and 15th Street. That is the as adopted version of the map, which is what we are requesting with RMU 100. As you'll see, this parcel has RMU 100 to the west. It has RMU 100 continuously running to the south. We believe that outside the historic district, that is appropriate in light of the fact that UMU 60 within the historic district would be seen as the absolute minimum that you could do that would be appropriate. But again, we are not asking for more than we need in terms of density here. This is, RMU 100 is the most dense category outside the CBD, but we believe that it's appropriate in light of the fact that this parcel is located on Adamo Drive, which is an arterial, and this is also proximate to a high potential area of transit-oriented development that will come up in future hearings.
All right, thank you. So I believe, seeing there's no one else here for public comment, that there's no one here to speak for or against this application. So I just wanted to kind of clarify and ask a question, ask Ron to clarify his position a little bit, just because the way that Tyler had presented it was about changing from light use to CMU 35 on that one lot in the historic district. But Ron, from where you say staff finds the inconsistencies not on the actual lot that is asking to be rezoned, it's at that RMU 100, and you're looking, since it's on the border of the historic district, you're looking to ask for a compromise or for a recommendation, as part of our recommendation, whether that should be considered UMU 60 instead.
That's correct. If you look what's here, we're comfortable with the request that's here today. The CMU 35 is compatible with the surrounding area, as well as the property that's indicated to the south, which is also CMU 35. The discussion this morning that we're having is this parcel here. They're trying to blend it into what's to the west. The historic district is here. We're trying to blend it in what's to the east. And with the language that I read in with the comprehensive plan, this could have a negative or an adverse effect to the historic district. So we're looking within the district for compatibility.
All right, thank you. And is there anyone that can tell us sort of the difference in terms of FAR and what can be developed between RMU 100 and UMU 60?
Mr. Hudson should be aware of that information.
One second. Commissioner, were you specifically asking about the difference between LI and RMU 100?
And an UMU 60, well, no, we know it's going to be, you're wanting to change it. So between RMU 100 and then UMU 60.
Sure. The difference is that UMU 60 has a base FAR of 2.5. RMU 100 has a base FAR of 3.5. Both can be doubled if you're in the CBD periphery, which these projects are. And then from a residential density standpoint, if you chose to develop under that framework, that's where the difference is pretty material. UMU 60 has a base entitlement of 50 units per acre. RMU 100 has a base entitlement of 100 units per acre. And the problem with that is that given there is discussion about eliminating the ability to develop at FAR in UMU 60 and in CMU 35, that could create a situation where you're essentially capped at 50 units per acre in the UMU 60 area, which at that point your average unit size is going to be probably start with an 8, which we believe is inconsistent with the growing trend in this area for larger quantities of smaller units. So that's why we're asking for RMU 100, and that's why we believe it's appropriate. And I'll handle some other stuff in rebuttal, but if that answers your question.
All right, thank you. All right, and it's no. With that, we'll have the commissioners ask the applicants any questions, starting with Jose over there.
No questions on my end at this point.
No, I have no questions.
I have a couple. Let's start off, Ron. Your preliminary staff report that I received in our packet indicated that the applicant was consistent with the conditions. That's since changed in our packet in front of us today. Is that primarily driven by the southern parcel on Adamo Drive and the RMU 100 versus UMU 60 conversation? Or are there other concerns?
No, that's the base concern. I could tell you that Camaria, Tyler, and myself were on phone calls as late as 5 o'clock yesterday trying to gather all the information and provide you with the most accurate presentation this morning. But that's the one parcel, that southern parcel that abuts Adamo and 15th is the one in question.
Okay, so that's really the main issue.
That's the reason for the revised staff report. Yes,
That's
sir.
what I thought. Okay. And really the concern there is that parcel abuts the local historic district, and you're concerned about overbuilding that boundary on 15th to a higher density that would be likened to the adjacent UMU 60 parcel. So that could be, but there's no plans for that parcel to be developed at this point in time. I don't believe that parcel's in this landholder's portfolio, correct?
Are you talking about the property that's within the district that has the UMU 60?
Yes.
Does your team own that? No.
Okay. So it might have been helpful to see the presentation from Kettler because, I think the issue here is, well, I'll save that for a conversation, for our discussion part. For Tyler, I had a question on the FAR on your slide 11, but I think you since clarified that once you're in the CBD periphery, the FARs get doubled.
Correct. Only for projects that are either residential or mixed use. So single use, commercial, or office projects are not entitled to that, but residential or mixed use, which is the intent of this development.
Okay. And then we're tied to the YC6 height limits on a lot of these parcels that are currently there, but it's your plan that a lot of these are going to go to PD and PDAs so that you can, or more specifically for us, YC9, so that'll be site plan specific development so that you can call out your height limits as needed on each separate parcel.
Yes, sir, and those will come before you. This parcel will be rezoned to YC9 in connection with the PDA. It's going to come before you for a recommendation, and not to preview my rebuttal, but I understand Ron's concerns. I think that the Barrio has adequate tools based on the design standards and based on its rezoning recommendation authority to ensure that the density we're requesting is appropriately constrained. And those are going to be in future hearings that will absolutely come before this board. But yeah, yes, and I can represent to you that we are going to be under 60 feet for the parcel that's before you today.
all the
And
parcels?
again, this is a trust but verify exercise,
Well,
obviously, but I mean, it's,
Yeah, I think you could say that on the northernmost parcel and probably the middle parcel, but on the bottom parcel, you know.
sure, the
southern-
further, yes, sir, and the further we get outside the historic district, the more appropriate we are going to be shifting the height away from the district as much as possible. And I think, again, the design standards that you all are entrusted to enforce provide you with, I think, adequate power to shape what that looks like when we come to you with more specific requests. But we are very cognizant of those, and we have worked very hard to be respectful of those. And I hope you'll see that when we bring you the first iteration. But we have to ask for these comp plan changes. We need the numbers because, again, we are going to be presenting you with a 28-acre plan, and some of the density is going to be shifted in various places. So some might be more on the gasworks parcel, for example, which is more distant from this area. But we need to have the overall entitlements in the aggregate in order to do that, and that's what motivates this discussion. Not that we want to absolutely put 7.0 FAR on every single piece of RMU100,
Right,
but you
right.
need to consider that, and I understand that.
Okay. Well, it's reassuring to hear that from you because I think that staff's concerned with that parcel and adjoining the local district, and there's certainly some special considerations that are given within the the comp plan for that. I think this board would be able to, as you said, accurately modify or limit the corner of the development as it abuts the historic district there. So that will come before us in a several separate motions, I'm sure. So let's talk about the northern parcel, where you're taking that house. From this plan, I see another light industrial zoning on that same block that on 3rd Avenue and República de Cuba. How come that's not in this motion right now to change that from light industrial?
Because that is owned by our friends at the Tampa Electric Company. And
That's a substation right there?
yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, so
They
that's-
actually own both the red and the gray, but that stubborn portion of light industrial we're working with them. We've had a lot of conversations with them about potentially including their parcels within ours, but as you can imagine, they're a little reticent sometimes to get involved in these types of things. So if we could have changed it, we certainly would have.
Is that light industrial or is it something else?
No, that's light industrial. The really dark gray that you see, you can see on screen, that's south of Adamo Drive. It almost looks black.
Yeah.
That's heavy industrial,
Right.
which is fairly similar from an
Or-
intensity standpoint. It just allows a little bit louder, smellier uses.
Okay, thank you. The last question I have is for Maria. So I kind of misspoke a little bit earlier when I said, hey, this is really only about one parcel. It's about all 4 parcels. And it's a recommendation that goes to City Council for a land use comp plan amendment here. I guess legally, the only one that we have purview over is that one parcel on the northern side because that's within our district. The others kind of get grouped in to this motion because they're adjacent to the local historic boundary.
That is
Yeah.
correct, but what's most important is that there's one plan amendment. All of these are in one plan amendment.
Okay.
That's going before city council. So yes, the smallest parcel is in the district, but the remaining 2 are abutting the district, so that's correct, but there's only one plan amendment, and that's why we're talking about all of them.
Okay, and then same for the parcel that's.
By the
one-
Selman Expressway,
Yeah.
I don't think staff has any findings that is inconsistent with what the request is, because it's furthest away from the district. What's of most concern are the parcels that are abutting the district.
3 out of 4, but the central grouping it together
Yes.
is one recommendation from this commission.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And if you want to, and when a commissioner makes the motion to recommend or not to recommend to city council, I know that there are 3 separate parcels. I have the folio numbers if you want to be specific about each parcel for the folio, or if you want to describe it so that it goes before city council on Thursday, so city council will know what this commission was thinking regarding each individual parcel.
Okay, thank you.
I think Rich answered a lot of my questions.
All right.
I don't have any more at this time.
So then my only questions probably goes to Ron and Kamaria as well. So if we were to make a recommendation, or if the zoning for, I think the lot that staff finds inconsistent, gets approved for RMU 100, as sort of Tyler was hinting at, would any development on that parcel have to come back in front of our board for us to give design recommendations, or for us to get a certificate, grant a certificate of appropriateness, since it borders the historic district but is not in it?
I didn't understand your question. Say it again. You're gonna come back, he's gonna come back for what's in the district for sure.
For what's in the district, correct. But for the parcel that staff finds inconsistent, that they're asking for the RMU 100, for what's being developed there, it would not come back before the BLC.
No.
That's correct. Okay.
Well, it depends on what Ron, do you wanna just go ahead and answer, provide additional information?
Well, that was our concern with the additional density that's required. We will not review that project if it's outside the district. So our boundary lines are defined here, and what would be in front of us are the ones to the north. They're the one to the north.
Go ahead.
If I could just add that though, these are going to be rezoned in a single PDA that is going to come before you. That is what we are doing. We're gonna probably file it in a month. But of course you do have to consider a scenario where, I don't know, so the parcel changes hands later today and then they just develop that parcel as a standalone. That is possible. But I'm here to tell you that is not gonna happen, because this parcel is integral to the master plan that we are proposing and are gonna file. And that PDA will be before you as a single REZ 21-something application. And it's gonna include the parcels that are in the historic district and the parcels that are not in the historic district.
So just to reiterate, if it's coming back to you as one, just as it's one plan amendment here, if it's coming back to you as one rezoning application, then you will be able to, just as here, you're considering the different parcels abutting and in the district, you're gonna have the same purview at that time.
All right, thank you.
I just have a question. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that this was framed properly, because you've got your parcel to the north, which is apples, and you've got the two to the south of the boundary, which is oranges. And we're going to one, it doesn't make sense to me. It would have been a much cleaner thing to do two for us, instead of putting all three together.
That's just what his client, they filed one plan amendment.
I would have felt better with two.
Fortunately, it's not that way. All right, are there any more questions for the applicants or staff before I close the public hearing?
No, he needs to be able to have his rebuttal time.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Was there anything else you would like to add after, well, yeah, funny, but are there any more questions first before Tyler presents his rebuttal? None?
No questions, okay. Thank you, commissioners. I'd like to, again, just sort of, I think a picture is worth 1,000 words, which for a lawyer that sometimes means a lot. That there already is the presence of RMU 100 that is even east of 15th Street, and it's not in the district, but we are gonna have these jurisdictional issues, these boundary issues for every single application that we come before you. We know that, we've known that for a long time. This is just the first one. And I, you know, there's trust, but there's trust but verify. We are not asking for more density on this parcel. We call it E7. If that's E7, you can imagine there's other E blocks that comprise, again, this 28-acre PDA we're gonna file. This is the amount of density that we need in order to make the program that we think best fits this district. I respect Ron's concerns. I don't think they are unreasonable, but I think there are more reasons to support this application as filed than there are not. We didn't ask for UMU 60. north of Second Avenue. We could have. We thought it was tailored and appropriate, again, to pull what is already westward, where there has been a development trend, east over to that boundary line. That is what we're trying to do for each of the parcels that are the subject of, unfortunately, this single integrated application. We are pulling what already exists to the west over to the boundary. And I think that is the appropriate legal way to do it. I think it's the appropriate planning and preservation way to do it, rather than try to stretch from the east, stretch from the historic district into an area that is simply not the historic district. And again, I think that you are afforded ample measures to constrain and to affect and influence this development through your design standards, through the hearings you're going to have on the rezonings that we are going to bring before you, the first one probably in October, for the PD that's been filed, and would respectfully ask that you approve this application as filed. If there are concerns about any one particular parcel in the course of your discussion, I would ask for a consideration of reopening the public hearing to discuss that, if that is the direction of the commission. And with that, I really appreciate your time and your questions. So thank you.
Thank you. And so that will close the public hearing, and then the commissioners can discuss the case. I guess I'll start with Rich.
Well, I think this kind of boils down to the, I think the recommendation, I think, sets itself up well for what they're trying to do and working within the framework that we have here. I think it all boils down to me is on that southern parcel, whether RMU 100 or UMU 60 is a more appropriate use there. Like the applicant said, I think, and we discussed, that there's ample opportunity there to control the development on that eastern boundary that abuts the line, since they are grouping this all together. I mean, I keep going back to the map in here with the staff report, and all their properties abut that line. So, and if they're doing everything as one big master plan development, then I think there's going to be ample opportunity to control that and to work with that. I don't think the RMU 100 there is excessive. I'm a little concerned about the height of what they're going to propose with the YC9, because they can determine what the height is. But I think there's ample opportunity for us to comment and correct, and maybe we won't have to. Maybe it kind of sounds like the applicant is already realizing that there's certain protections that need to happen on that boundary right there, and any time that we do touch that historic district boundary. So I think that at this point in time, I'm willing to move forward with that. Let them have their density, as long as we don't need to put it on the record, but I think we all understand that line 15th Street is an important boundary that needs to be addressed respectfully for the district. So, if we start seeing things that go against that, give them the density now, which I think is consistent with the comp plan and everything else that we've talked about or seen with the Adamo corridor, that's certainly an appropriate place for that density to happen. But I think there needs to be controls that we'll have purview over in the future. So I think this is a good way to frame this recommendation moving forward.
Well, of most concern to me is, I don't have a camera here, is the jog and the red line that goes around the blue house. And why it's there. Whomever drew that seems to me to be, I'm not against development. There's going to be a lot of development. It's all going to be good stuff. But I took the oath to preserve the integrity and the fabric of Ybor City. So we've got a contributing structure, and that's my concern. The jog, I'm guessing, I could be wrong, but the jog in the red line that puts that up in YC6 was drawn to protect that house. And it seems to me that the people that did that understood that that's what was important. And I think that's important. Unfortunately, this is tied to the other parcels, because the other parcels, whether we go RM100, RM60, whatever it is, they're gonna come out great. We'll get a say-so, but I think it was a mistake to tie those together, because I'm not in favor of this, based on the oath I took to be on this board, to protect the integrity of a structure that was built in 1950. And it's just that simple, because we know that when the planned development goes in, it's gonna be great, and it will have influences from Ybor City. That's the best we can do, but it's not gonna look anything like Ybor City. But we'll do it. But where we have a plan, where we have a clear contributing structure, I don't think we should touch it. And in that fact, I think for my vote, that structure kills the rest of it. And that's what I have to say.
So, Kamaria Pettis-Knuckle again from the City Attorney's Office. There is a contributing structure on that parcel, but this is not about the contributing structure. This is about the comp plan and whether or not you approve or want to make a recommendation or not make a recommendation to City Council to change it from light industrial to what they're asking for, which is the CMU 35. That will allow for residential. Right now, light industrial doesn't allow for residential. We understand that there's a contributing structure, a house on that property, but right now it's used as light industrial. They're asking for it to change to CMU 35 that allows residential.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Jose?
Yeah, Jose Perez. So I agree with the plan amendment. I agree with Rich, his comment about on 15th Street, those two southern properties. I think we're going to have a chance to review those at some point. I like the idea of pulling from the west rather than the east, so I agree with the higher density on that property, on the southernmost one. That's all.
Thank you so much for presenting your thing to us today and allowing us to have this level of conversation. I agree with the density. I get it. I understand going light industrial to residential. I'm okay with that. I know there's going to be more to come. I think we're going to be having a lot of conversation amongst us on how we move forward on this, or how we support, or what our contribution is. I understand what you're saying about the guidelines and the oath that we took. I understand that. So I think that's why we need to keep in mind as things are coming through, and what the long-term impact is going to be and what that's going to look like. So that's all I know. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I agree with what a lot of Rich said, and sort of my questions for the RMU 100. I'm not necessarily against it. I do worry, and which is with I think the worrying from the findings of staff as well, that we wouldn't get a chance to review it, except that as you presented it as part of a larger master plan, that it would come back before us. And I'm wondering if, as part of our recommendation, if that could be part of our recommendation, is that it comes back to us as part of a larger master plan.
It will.
Okay. So that the BLC can review. And so with that, I'm somewhat comfortable with recommending the zoning change as well, as long as we sort of have that sort of rider on it, that it comes back to us for us to review.
Mind if I say?
Yeah.
If you continue our conversation here. So, like on that southern parcel, I mean, if you go with the UMU 60, I mean, you're just hand strapping that whole parcel, because if you give them RMU, then that, it's going to match the density of the parcel on East 2nd, west of República de Cuba, and the gasworks site, which is the next one over. So by not doing that, you're immediately having them step down, but they can, in other words, transition from that higher density and get more of the density maybe on the western side and then step down on the eastern side of that parcel, which they're not gonna be able to do if they do the UMU 60. It's just gonna be flat, which is acceptable, but that just gives, I don't think they're gonna use the full density on that parcel, but at least they have that.
But
The,
No, that's for
the
us to see,
rights,
right? That's for us to see down the road.
And we will, we will.
so just to clarify, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, just to clarify, again, you're approving the greatest density for that parcel. You can say, you know, that they may not, you know, the project can go certain boundaries, but you're still approving the maximum density for that,
And
okay?
I'm just making a point
Okay.
to my fellow commissioners because we're entitling them to build that full density up there with the FAR 7.0 and whatever they come back with a height limit, but they're probably not gonna use it all if they're gonna step down on the eastern side. So we're giving them the opportunity to use that, but I don't think they're gonna take full advantage of the density there. Or if, you know, maybe they will and, you know, that becomes more of a tower on the west side, which I don't think is appropriate, so that'll come back in front of us at some point in time. As far as a contributing structure, it is a contributing structure, so, you know, that's not in front of us at this point in time, and, you know, they may, in their plans, leave it alone and not do anything, but I highly doubt that, but I think that's kind of heard.
What?
Yeah, but I've also heard that, you know, I think that is a contributing structure, we realize how important that is, and if they're gonna do anything, I think it, you know, you're gonna go to a relocation, not a demolition. So I think them being responsible in their endeavors, I think that'll come back to us at a separate point. So I'm comfortable with that.
Right, and as you said, we're entitling them, I just want them, well, if we're entitled to be able to do so, that we were able to review anything down the road is my biggest concern. All right, and with that, someone needs to craft a motion for us.
And just for little guidance, the recommendation or whether or not you recommend, it's going to be to recommend or not to recommend to City Council to approve the changes to the comprehensive plan amendment from light industrial to CMU 35, or if you want to do from, to also address the southern parcels to also indicate what you would like those to be. So currently it's light industrial, and then you put what you're recommending to City Council. They're asking for CMU 35, and they're asking for RMU 100 for the southern parcel. So just tailor your recommendation to include what you're recommending or not recommending from and to, if you guys understand what I'm saying.
And there's no, the middle parcel there's no change there. That's already CMU 35.
That needs to be, that's also requesting to change to CMU 35.
Okay, from light industrial. Okay. Move to recommend City Council approve BLC 21-146/TA/CPA 2105 for the property located at 1402 15th Street for the proposed rezoning for the northern parcel from light industrial to CMU 35, for the middle parcel on 15th between 2nd and 3rd from light industrial to CMU 35, for the southern parcel bordering Adamo on 15th from light industrial to RMU 100, and from the parcel on the western side by the Selman, is that light industrial right now too?
Heavy industrial.
Heavy industrial to
RMU 100.
RMU 100.
That's what they're asking for.
Okay. For the reasons that that is consistent with Chapter 27 of the City of Tampa zoning code, and that it's consistent with the comp plan, future land use for the area.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries.
So Commissioner Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservation. We have one more agenda item, which is the election of officers. We do have a full board this morning. It's the pleasure of the board if you want to go through with the election of officers, or if you want to postpone that into the next public hearing.
You want to elect officers or postpone it?
Who are we missing? I refresh my memory.
John and Jose.
Jose. What are you guys' thought? I mean, we can keep pushing it off if we have to, but we pushed it off last month too, because
Couple times.
they weren't here.
You moved the election at least 2 cycles already.
Per our procedure,
Yeah.
we usually do it in April, and we continue it from April to May, and from May to today.
And we're voting on chairperson.
Chair and vice chair.
I say let's vote.
All right.
Let's do it today.
So, do you want to, do we just need a nomination for, we can start with the chair first?
And aside from, and this is an education for Liz Welch again, aside from chairing this meeting, what other responsibilities does the chairperson have? Is that it?
Just chairing the committee meetings.
Got it.
And they can't do motions.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can't do motions.
So it's like, I would nominate Rich, but you're good at motions. I go ahead and nominate Rich Simmons for chair.
You wanna do it?
Accept.
Okay.
Eric or Jose, you guys got any input?
No, we just have to have a motion.
Oh,
Yeah, I know, we're discussing quietly amongst ourselves. You guys wanna do it? No? Okay. I second the motion for Rich.
all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
I mean, sure.
Yeah. Back in the hot seat again.
Now
Yeah.
somebody else is gonna have to practice making motions. Rich is very good at it.
And we're gonna
We
make
need
a
a
motion
vice chair.
For the vice chair.
Levi as vice chair?
He's currently the vice chair.
I'm currently vice
Is that
chair.
okay or not?
How do we,
If you would like to make a motion to keep him as vice chair, then you're certainly welcome to, someone's more than welcome to keep him, make a motion to have him remain as vice
I
chair.
make a motion for you to remain as vice chair.
Do you accept that?
Accept.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion?
A second.
Second.
Can we have a vote on
Oh.
that?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so I guess I'm so chairing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll get you. All right, motion carries. Thank you. And with that, I call an end to the June 22nd, 2021 BLC meeting.
Dang.
Thank you.